Hello, everybody. How's it going? Ben Gothard here, and today we're doing another Project Egg interview. We're talking to Ellie Burscough from Australia. How you doing today, Ellie?
Hey, good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for jumping on the interview. So, my first question for you today is, what is your story?
Cool. I don't know how far back to go. I guess when I started out in business, I started out six and a half years ago. I was living off welfare at the time. I literally had no money. I had just had my daughter, and my partner was on a tourist visa, so he wasn't allowed to work. And so we were struggling. We had no car. We couldn't even afford to eat meat. We literally had nothing. And one day, there was a letter that came in the post saying that his visa wasn't approved. And I remember just laying on the floor, feeling so stressed out, wondering if our family would be torn apart, basically. And I knew in that moment that I had to do something to create a better life and lifestyle for us. And so it was at that time that I decided to start my own business. And that was my real driver to be able to create a better life, but even further back from that, if we go back even further, when I was like a teenager and in my early 20s, I was just a big party girl and I was into drugs and just really destroying my life. And, from the hard things that I've gone through in my life, it's made me really driven and really determined. And that's why I've created success and an amazing lifestyle and amazing business now for myself.
That's awesome. So, I
Mm.
definitely want to dive a little bit more into your story.
Mm.
So, you said from a
Yeah.
young age, you were more of a party girl. Um, could you tell us, like geographically, where you were, and then kind of give us a progression as you went through any sort of formal education?
Yeah, yeah. Like when I was when I was a party girl, when I was in high school, my parents split up, and I just kind of rebelled a bit, and I was out partying all the time, and then in my early 20s as well, I was doing the same thing. My dad actually kicked me out of home because he couldn't deal with me anymore. So this was in Brisbane, Australia, and I I was into drugs and I was had an abusive relationship as well, and it was just a really I thought at the time I was invincible, like any 19-year-old does. I thought I was having the time of my life, and it was actually the worst time in my life. And so to be able to get away from that boyfriend and get away from that drug scene and that party scene, I actually moved over to England, where I was born, and I lived there for a year. And it was during that time that I met my now partner, and he literally changed my life. That move and meeting him changed my life because he'd never done any of that before. And so I straightened out, and I've never touched anything since. And fell pregnant actually after only knowing him for 3 months. But it all worked out. We've been together almost 8 years now, and so yeah, that's the kind of the journey around that time. I did finish. You asked about education. I did finish high school. I went to university to study to be a primary school teacher in special education. But because of everything that was going on at the time with partying and getting in trouble and all of that, I actually ended up dropping out of uni. And I had that little bit of time where I was traveling and when I came back to Australia after being overseas for a year, that was that time where I was talking about where we had no money, we're on welfare. And that's when I decided to study. And my first business was actually personal training. So I studied to become a personal trainer. And then that was the start of my business journey.
Wow, that's incredible. So, you said you went to university for a little while and then you dropped out. Can you
Yeah.
talk about how that has impacted your life as an entrepreneur and maybe go a little bit into depth on the importance of education, regardless of what form it may be in?
Yeah, yeah, cool. So that's a really good question because, I wanted to be a primary school teacher since I was 3 years old. And I have a little sister. I have three siblings, but my little sister was alive at that time. And I used to boss her around so much, and I used to be the teacher and the leader, and used to make her play teacher games and stuff like that. So always, 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 ever since I can remember, wanted to be a teacher. And so when I actually dropped out of university, it was devastating for me, realizing that I might not be able to be a teacher because of being in trouble with the police for everything that was going on, And so I felt really I felt a lot of guilt and shame, and I felt disappointed in myself. And I felt like something that I'd always wanted was not happening anymore. And so years later, my mum actually said to me, well, like when I started personal training and through my business journey now, she's like, well, you are teaching now, just in a different way. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. And, that personality that I had from a young age, I've still stepped into that, and I've used that and used kind of my skill set and who I am as a person, but it just wasn't in the way that I thought it initially was going to be. And I think that's a really important perspective and lesson for anyone to have. Just because you decide something when you're 3 years old, or any time in your life, doesn't mean you don't have a blueprint to your life. And some things will work out and other things won't. But, in saying that, it all works out in the end anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you actually brought up a really good point that I want to touch on, which is how you recognize that you have a set of skills, and you have your personality, and you are who you are, but the way in which you applied those skills, that kind of changed. So
Yeah.
for entrepreneurs that they may be struggling to identify those skills, right? Because it's sometimes it's hard to know what we're best at. What advice would
Yeah.
you give them to really figure out who they are and figure out what skills they have that they can best work with?
Yeah, cool. So there's a few different things really. We've got to look at our conditioning of the way that we grew up. And, both my parents were entrepreneurs. They've always had their own businesses. So and that's funny. It only clicked for me last year. I was like, oh, yeah. So if you've had that kind of background, it's going to be easier for you. If you've had parents that always struggled, and, we weren't rich, but we weren't struggling. And if you've always struggled or had parents that have always worked 9 to 5 and tell you that you've got to do the same, it's going to be harder to break that conditioning, but it's not impossible. Like anyone can change, and you can actually, in a way, use that as your driver to be like, well, I don't want to be like my parents, or I want to be better with money, or I want to live my purpose because my mum didn't, or whatever it is, And so that's part of it. The other part is just writing down. Sorry, there's a plane going over. Just writing down your personality traits, who you are as a person, the things that you love doing, the hobbies that you have maybe now or in the past. And then even deeper than that, it's thinking about what are those milestones and those things that have happened in your life, to work out who you really want to work with. Because our ideal clients and the people that we really love helping are who we were a few years ago, or maybe even longer. And so, yes, I don't work with people who are on drugs or people who have had an abusive relationship. There's charity work that I do around domestic violence and things like that. But I've drawn something from that in like I I don't believe that anyone should have to struggle. I don't believe that anyone should have to live a life that they don't love. Everyone has 100% control of their life. And, it's not going to happen at the click of a fingers. And it might not happen even this year. It's taken me 6 years to build up to the stage that I'm at now. And I've had ups and downs along the way. But you can really create anything that you want in your life. And so many people that I help, they want freedom and they want to live a life on their terms. And I basically show them that they can have that because of what I've been through.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think what you said about it doesn't happen immediately. I really think that's profound because
Mm,
there's a lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis, and I can't speak for everybody, but there's a lot of people that I talk to that have been doing the entrepreneurship thing for, I don't know, 6 months, maybe a year, and they're frustrated because
yeah,
they're not wildly successful. And I always try to
yeah,
tell them, like, look, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not going to happen like that.
Yeah,
you have to build it. You have to get into it. You have to get that momentum going. So for those
totally.
so for those people who they are maybe a little bit, they're into their entrepreneurial journey, but maybe a little bit um, at an obstacle. They may be at an obstacle right now, and they're struggling
Mm.
to overcome it. What advice would you give them to help them persevere and to help them stay driven and keep going?
Yeah. So that comes back to resilience, it's just it's getting tougher when those obstacles come your way, and it's changing the perspective. If you see it as an obstacle, if you see it as a failure, as a struggle, then it's going to be, it's the way that I see things now, and I've only been able to do this because I've done so much work on myself, but I see things as um, I see things a lot differently to most people do now. And I guess the best way to explain this is giving an example. So last year, about maybe 8 or 9 months ago, had a lot of clients drop off all at once. I was in Sydney at the time. I'd flown down to for some work stuff, and I had about 10 clients leave all within a month or so. And I was like beating myself up. What have I done wrong? I'm not doing the right things. No one likes me, all this stuff. And making it all about me and getting really angry and really triggered by it. And so when it happened again about 6 months later, because I'd worked on myself and changed the perspective, I was able to see that in a different way. And I did that by asking myself a few questions. So the first one was like, what is the trigger? What can I learn from this? How am I actually going to grow? And then what action do I need to take to be able to move forwards? And so initially in that first circumstance, the trigger was clients leaving. My reaction to that was getting defensive and angry and making it all about myself. What I could learn from it and grow was, well, actually, it's not about me. It's about them. And then I realized the change in perspective was anytime that I grow at a rapid rate, people will drop off. But at the same time, just as many people step up with me and spend more money with me, or new clients come in as well. It's focusing on those new clients rather than the people who are leaving. In that circumstance where I was feeling bad when I was in Sydney, I got outside my environment. I went down, I had a nice lunch, had some time out so I could change my state. When I got back to the apartment I was staying in, I had all these leads coming through and all these opportunities coming my way because I'd changed my mindset. Instead of seeing the negatives and being in that negative headspace and not even calling these people, I got on the phone, and within a few hours, I actually made $13,000. So if I'd still been in that negative headspace, I wouldn't have been able to do that. It's really, really powerful asking those questions.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into those three questions. And you said it was trigger, reaction, and what can I learn from this? Can we talk about the importance of learning from obstacles or failures, if you will, right? Because the last step of the three steps you just talked about was learn, and if we always look at failure as the stopping point, then we're never going to go anywhere. So could you talk about how important learning from failure is?
Mm, totally. What I think as well is it's not a failure unless you actually give up. It's just an obstacle that you can learn from. And you know, we wouldn't want everything handed to us on a silver platter. I know people that have wealthy parents, and everything's handed to them, and they never have to work hard a day in their life. I wouldn't like that. It doesn't teach you anything. It doesn't make you a strong, resilient person. I actually like that I've gone through struggle to be able to get where I am, because it makes it more rewarding. And so I see these tough times, and when you're in the middle of it, I might not feel this good. I might not have this self reflection, but the more I've built my mindset and my self awareness and had that self reflection by asking myself questions, the more I can bounce back from things so much quicker than I would have been able to a year or a few years ago. And so it really is from that self awareness and just asking yourself questions, so that you're able to move forwards. And now I can do that within minutes or maybe a few hours or something. Yeah, so it doesn't last that long. I find people that get stuck in their obstacles and don't move forwards are people who don't have that self reflection and that self awareness. And they get really triggered by things. Um, and they kind of, they're in victim mentality and they're blaming everyone else, you know? And so we got to take 100% responsibility for our own actions and inactions. And when you do that, then you realize that it's not your mum's fault or your dad's fault or your teacher in school's fault or your client who left, you know. You've got to take 100% responsibility, learn the lessons so that you can continue moving forwards.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you talked about your transition from kind of being that party girl, and then meeting your partner, and then how the that was kind of the shift when y'all had no money at about 6 years ago, I believe you said.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
actions did you take once you had that shift in mindset? What actions did you take immediately following that in order to set yourself up for your success now?
So back then I invested in a personal training course and my daughter was only a few months old and we had no car, so I used to cycle to get to my classes. And, most people who were in the course, when we finished, they either did nothing with the course or they went and worked in a gym because they were too scared to do something by themselves, even though they wanted to. I actually started my own business the first week out of PT college. So even though I had no idea what I was doing, and so the first couple of months, I was only making like $100, $200 a week, really not much at all, had no idea what I was doing, but was just starting to put myself out there. And then I found a business coach early on, a couple of months in, and the first thing I did with him was $1,000. And back then you could have said 100,000. That's how much it felt like. But I took action from what he told me to do, and I went out and made some money, and I paid it off bit by bit. And I invested a lot of money with them actually over the next 2 years. And he helped me go from that $200 a week to $1,000 a week within a couple of months. And then I took that business to 100 grand in a year and 200 grand in under 2 years. And then I ended up selling it and started business coaching for personal trainers and coaches. So, really investing in myself right from the beginning, and having someone to teach me the things that I didn't know, the strategy and the sales and the marketing. I have a sales background, but it was hard to relate that to my own business at first. And so having someone that had my back as well when I might not have been believing in myself or I was having an obstacle or a bad day was really, really helpful. And then obviously just my hard work and determination to want to create a better life and lifestyle. That was like my drive and my reason why. And I think a lot of people are too comfortable. A lot of people have this security blanket of a full-time job, or their partner is maybe earning a lot of money, or their parents give them money, or whatever it is. And you've got to rip that security blanket away. It doesn't mean if you're in a high-paying job, don't leave your job straight away, but you've got to put some kind of urgency in your way to want to move forwards, and not just play it safe.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, that's what really helped me as I was kind of starting out.
And so, you said you went from, earning a couple $100 a week to building a business to over $200,000 in 2 years. I mean, that is truly an extraordinary feat. Could you maybe talk about some of the factors that were fundamental to your success?
Yeah, definitely. So the biggest thing was mindset. I think in the beginning it's strategy. If you don't know about business, then yes, it's strategy. But a lot of people get caught in the strategy thinking, oh, I need to learn Facebook ads, or I need to learn, there were no Facebook ads back then, and thinking they need to have a fancy landing page or a website or whatever. Yes, you need to know strategy. You need to know what to do, how to market, how to sell, all of what your plan is, what your goals are, and have 100% clarity on that and just stick to the plan. But that's only a small percentage of it. Mindset is the biggest part, because you can have all the strategy in the world, but if you've got limiting beliefs going on, like I can't do it, it's too hard, I don't have time, I'm not good enough, any of these things are going to hold you back from even taking any action. So I worked a lot on my mindset. I did a lot of personal development. I let go of a lot of past stuff that was from family stuff that I'd never looked at before. Plus, coupled with the strategy and the marketing and the sales training and having that community and that support really, really helped me. And I've invested, over the last 6 years, I've invested about, I think it's around $250,000 on my own personal development and business development. And I'm not saying people have to spend that much, but that's just an example of I've been willing to invest in myself even when I didn't have the money, and been willing to work on myself with the internal deep work as well, so that I could become the person I am today. And it's not just the business success that I've had because of that. I've changed as a person as well, like I'm much less triggered by things. I'm more connected with my partner and my kids, more connected with myself. Just amazing things happen when you work on yourself, of course. So that's been the biggest things. And then just taking action, that 0 to 100K jump is all about getting yourself out there. No one knows you. You've got to do the work. You've got to produce valuable content. You've got to be a great person at what you do. You've got to give massive value. You've got to put yourself out there by networking with businesses and doing seminars. Or I did a baby expo because my market was mums boot camps with babysitting included. I was the first one to do that in my area. And so I went and did baby expos. The baby expo was $2,500 just for the stand. And this is back when I didn't have much money, and I weighed up the numbers. I took a risk, and I ended up getting over 600 leads in 3 days. And I did it 3 years running. The third year I did it, I got over 1,000 leads in 3 days. And that was the number one thing that was the basis for my business of lead generation,
That's incredible. So you talked about a lot of really important things, but I want to touch on one in particular. And you said that when you're first getting out there, in order to make your first $100,000, you need to put yourself out there, do the work, and let people know what you do. And it's that last part that I want to touch on specifically, because I feel like a lot of people don't know what it is that they do. Right? You got into more of the personal training niche, right? You said you took a course in that.
Yeah.
But for people who they don't know what they're good at, they don't know what they're passionate about, but they do want to get into business in some way, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. So it's again going back to what I was talking about before around what are the milestones, what are the key things that have happened in your life to find the kind of person that you want to help and get clarity on your purpose and your passion and what you want to do. So there could be so many different things. The reason I started personal training is because I had just had my daughter. I put on 20 kilos in pregnancy, and I ended up losing 29 kilos in 7 months after having her. I don't know what that is in pounds, by the way. But so because I had put on a lot of weight and then lost that in a short time afterwards, I wanted to help other women to lose their baby weight, and show them it didn't have to be so hard. And then that kind of evolved into helping them with emotional eating and learning to love themselves and their bodies just as they are. It became a bit more, a bit deeper, than just losing weight. And that came from my own experience of what I'd just been through. And then following on from that, now being a business coach, that came from, well, I've just created this amazing success in my business, but I see so many other trainers and coaches and business owners struggling in theirs and not making money and not having any freedom or time. So that's why I started that. So it's always come from something that's happened in my life. And I think that's what people need to look at to be able to find what they really love and who they're really passionate about helping.
Absolutely. I think it's a really good point. And you also mentioned the importance of mindset, right? You said, albeit the first thing you need is strategy. If you don't have anything, the
Mm.
close second is mindset. And
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I think that if you don't have the right mindset, you're really not going to go far. For example, if you have a negative mindset and you never think that you're going to get anywhere, well, then you're setting yourself up to do that, right? If you're thinking, oh, I'm going to fail in the next 5 months, well, you're probably
Yeah.
going to fail in the next 5 months, right? But if you think, oh, I'm going to be successful in the next 5 months, you might not reach the level that you were
Mm.
going for, but you're on a path, and you're on a good path upward. So, can you talk about one, maybe dive a little bit more into the importance of mindset, and two, talk about how to develop a good, winning, successful mindset?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. So I think the most important thing that I've been teaching a lot of people lately is that self-awareness and self-reflection, And so you can get that through journaling and meditation is where I would recommend everyone to start. So journaling is like I know a lot of people, especially females, I think, would have had a diary as they're growing up, and it's kind of like just getting a notebook and just writing in a notebook in a journal, and you can write anything. You can ask yourself certain questions like, what am I really passionate about? Who do I really want to help? What are my goals? What, maybe writing a bucket list or writing out your values or doing daily gratitude. There's so many different ways you can do it. You can even write, I'm having a really crap day. And like, why am I feeling like this? And, if you're writing that, you're getting out of your head and you're actually being able to process it for yourself. It's like having your own counselor. So journaling is really, really powerful and can be used in so many different ways. And then with meditation, for example, I use something called headspace.com. Or I used to use it when I started meditating. Now I can just do it by myself. But it's just a guy that there's 10 free ones on there. And it's just 10-minute guided meditation where you just focus on your breathing and being in touch with your body, basically. And so I don't think a lot of people do that these days. Everyone's just go, go, go all the time, that we don't stop, and we're kind of pushing things down. And I find that a lot of people are medicating themselves basically with binge watching Netflix or um, alcohol or drugs or emotional eating or being busy. They're using all these things to push down their true purpose and what they really want. And what meditation allows us to do is actually slow down for a moment. And when you do that, your intuition works better, and you actually bring these things to mind of what your passion is and get clarity on where you're at and what you want and what you're doing that's not healthy and what you could be doing that is healthier as well. So uh, people are so switched on all the time. We need to switch off to be able to actually get clarity on what we want and where we're at.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we talked a little bit about we talked a little bit about how to figure out what it is that we want to do. And we talked about, from somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, or what they want to do, to help them figure out that one thing. But then I also think there's an issue for some people from the other side of the spectrum of, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that, and they spread themselves
Mm.
too thin to where they can't excel at one thing in particular. So could you
Yeah.
maybe give some advice to people in that boat?
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's really good. I see a lot of people do that. They'll either be someone who's just not doing anything or someone who's trying to do too much. And so the people that have so many different ideas, and this is normal with entrepreneurs, we're creative people. You're always going to have ideas. It doesn't mean that it's a good idea though, or it doesn't mean that you need to implement it right now. For example, with my or with both businesses, actually, I've had ideas um, that, for example, with the fitness business, I had an idea to do some menu plans, like get them printed up and they could put them on their fridge. But I realized that I was only going to be able to sell that for like 10 or $20. I don't have a production facility. It was going to cost me a lot of money, and it was going to take time out from me actually being able to help someone at a deeper level. For example, if someone signed up for some mindset coaching with me back then, it would have been around $1,000, and I could make $1,000 and really help someone. So make more profit for me, obviously, but really help someone at a deeper level, or put $1,000 into producing these menu plan things. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, it's a great idea and people would use it and it would be helpful, but it doesn't mean that I have to implement it. And so I think a really good thing to do is writing out all your ideas on like a document and then asking yourself a few questions. I actually did a podcast on this a while ago. So it's asking yourself, is this going to bring people value? Is this going to be profitable for me? And is this worth my time? And so, if it's going to take a heap of time and it's going to cost you a heap of money and not really make you much money, then maybe it's not the best idea. Or if it's maybe not really going to help people, then there's no point putting it out there. Or if you can help them in a better way or just do something that you're currently doing, then just stick with what you're currently doing. That's the other thing as well. It's like that bright, shiny object syndrome, People have this plan and they know, okay, I know the exact steps that I need to do. When you have your plan and strategy to make 100,000 or make 500,000 or make 1 million or whatever the figure is, and then we'll start working towards it. And sometimes people will get close to it and then they're like, oh, I better pull back. I better go and do something else right now, because it's self-sabotage, It's like destructive behaviors, making things more complicated for yourself, throwing obstacles in your own way so you don't reach that goal. And people just need to stick to the plan and stay on track rather than trying to do a million different things. And it's like when I started business coaching, I was still running 2 businesses for a while. And that was full on, trying to do marketing, sales, content, everything for 2 different businesses. When I actually let go of the fitness business and started doing business coaching full time, I actually ended up tripling my business in 3 months because I had more focus, more time, more energy, and then more money came in.
Wow, that's really great advice, and I want to thank you for providing all the value that you have so far. Really do appreciate it.
Okay.
So
you asked really good questions.
Thank you. So we talked about your rise from that really crucial shift to the $200,000 in less than 2 years. So one of the things you said was critical to that success was investing in yourself. Could you talk a little bit about how much that really helped you, and specifically what it gave you? And I know you touched on it a little bit, but maybe go a little bit more in depth. And how somebody else who may be in that position you were back then, how they can find somebody who's worth the money, who's worth investing your time and energy working with.
Yeah, cool. So the best way to find the coach that's right for you is to find someone who has gone through what you want to, like they've already done what you want to do in a similar way. It doesn't even have to be specifically in the same industry, but it's got to match your morals and your values and your goals. So there's no point going with someone that's trying to tell you to do something different to what you actually want. Or maybe someone has young kids and they're telling them that they've got to work 15-hour days, and really what they want is to make a bit of money but spend more time with their family. It's got to match with the lifestyle that you want to create and your morals and values. Same with someone who has maybe made a lot of money, but they're spending it on Ferraris and, going out and drinking every night. If that's not the lifestyle that you want, then that's probably not the best coach for you. So you've got to look at not just what they say, but what they do, and maybe follow some people on Facebook and see if you really gel with them. I only work with people who I gel with on a personality level as well, who I feel that I can actually help. Like, I'm not going to take people on who I don't like as a person, or who are doing something that doesn't fit within what I do. So that's the way to find the best coach. And as you grow, you'll find different coaches along the way as well. I've had multiple mentors and coaches along the way. Um, so I guess when I started out and didn't have the money, it was really scary. But in knowing that I could just pay it off little bit by little bit and then take action really helped me. And I find that people who invest with me at a decent level, I do have like a low end program and I have a mid level and a high end. People that come on at the mid level, for example, they're spending thousands of dollars with me straight up. And so that can be a bit scary for people. But I found people that commit at that level, they have skin in the game. And I found the clients that do that with me, and when I've done that with other mentors, it's like, oh crap, I better go and make the money now. Yeah. If you're just paying like $50 a week or something, or like not much money, you don't have as much skin in the game to actually go and take action. And that way, when you're investing in yourself, you're going to get faster results because you can't just kind of go along slowly. You're actually going to go and be more driven to get there faster.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the last things you mentioned was personal development and how important that has been, not only in your business but in your personal life as well. You said you had better relationships, you felt better, you were more productive. You had you're just more in touch with yourself, if you will.
Yeah.
What can people do for those people who aren't as familiar with personal development? I'm actually a huge advocate of it. I love it. I think everybody should always be trying to better themselves. But for somebody who's not as into it, what advice can you give them to kind of get their foot in the water and really get started in the personal development journey, if you will?
Yeah, sure. So I would start following people. I have a podcast and I talk a lot about mindset, so people are welcome to follow that. People like Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, Brené Brown has some great stuff on vulnerability. There's lots of different people out there that are really kind of motivational and will really make you think about things. And Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, he's all about the hustle, which I believe that you've got to work hard, but I don't believe that you've got to work 15-hour days. So although some of the things he says I don't agree with, it's like looking behind that. And I love that he says, like, just because he works that much doesn't mean that everyone else has to. And I find his videos and what he puts out there very, very motivational. And so yeah, people can look up things like that on YouTube or podcasts or follow different people on Facebook. You want to surround yourself by people like that, whether it's your friends, family, people that you know, or people that you're just following online. You got to surround yourself with positive influences and people who are further ahead than you so that you can continue pushing forwards and actually believe that it's possible as well. If you're surrounded by people who are all struggling or working a day job and not surrounded by entrepreneurs, then it's gonna be hard for you to create that reality in your life as well. So that's what I think in first starting out. But then there's also, there's so many courses out there as well. Investing in a mentor is definitely really, really important, I think, and being part of a community of other entrepreneurs as well that have your back and support you. So yeah, that's what I would do.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I really like that you just said was the community aspect of it. And finding a community of like-minded people, of entrepreneurs who they may not be exactly where you are now, but we're all on the same journey. As entrepreneurs, I mean, we're all trying to get better at what we do, trying to help people, trying to provide value. And that's actually one of the pillars of Project Egg is, this very podcast is, we have a group and the whole point of the group is to connect and problem solve and succeed together. So, for people and I don't want to I don't want you to think I'm trying to self-promote the group here, but for people who they want to find that community, they want to connect with people, but they just don't know how or they don't know where to look, what advice would you give them?
So it's looking around in Facebook groups, and looking around on Facebook or asking friends, word of mouth referrals, that kind of stuff is great. Listening to podcasts like your podcast and different people's podcasts. And all of my mentors I found online on Facebook. So it's like you just start by doing that, by following different things. You can, the internet's so good these days. I remember when I was younger and you'd type something in, it'd be really hard to find something. These days you can type in something totally random and you find amazing things. So it's just surrounding yourself with that on Facebook is definitely massively beneficial. And when you surround yourself with those people that are in the same kind of mindset as you, then they will give you different connections as well. And that's a great business lesson, not just for your own personal development, but in business, the more communities that you're involved in, the more opportunities you get as well. Because business is all about relationships and connection, So if you're connected with more people, and if you're in different groups, and if you're following different things and you have different mentors, or I compete in powerlifting competitively, and I've met a lot of people and ended up getting clients from the powerlifting community. So it's not like a strategic thing, it's just do it for yourself, but then you're opening yourself up to so many more people, and you'll get more clients, or you'll get amazing opportunities like being interviewed, or collaborating with different business people and things like that as well.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from what you just said was you have to put yourself out there, right? You absolutely have to put yourself out there. And for those that are listening, I challenge each and every one of you to really ask yourself, okay, where am I right now? Where do I want to go? And how do I need to get there? And that last question, how do I need to get there? To put yourself out and to do it, right? Because if you're not challenging yourself, or if you're not pushing yourself out there and pushing past your comfort zone, it's going to be really difficult to learn and to grow and to build up that momentum and to get where you want to go. So, I really think it's profound what you said. So
totally.
So we've talked about your past. We've gotten some great value from the things that you said. But I want to talk about right now. What are you working on right now? What's kind of your biggest your biggest passion right now?
Yeah, so I've got really exciting stuff going on right now, actually. It's really cool. It's like, and it ties into what we were talking about before. You put in those years of work and it ends up just snowballing, and things are happening so much faster than ever before. So I have my assistant who does 30 hours a week for me. She does film, photography, design, branding. Plus she also does a bit of like payment processing and organizing events and media and interviews and things like that for me. And then I've just hired a couple of weeks ago a admin and social media manager. So she schedules all my content for me, and she helps in my low end Facebook group because it's so active and I just wasn't keeping up with it. And she books flights for me and accommodation and things like that. So with the two of them now, like that's 40 hours between them, we're just getting so many more things done so much quicker. And we also have like a CRM now that we've just set up fully. So that has all our workflows and to-do lists and projects in it. So we've really been setting things up so everything's more systemized and automated and more structured, which frees up my time to be able to work on the bigger projects. So I have my low end group, which I have over 60 people in there at the moment, and I just give massive value in there. That's for people who are kind of just starting out or have never worked on the business before. They've been working in it, but not on it, getting those foundations in place. Then I have my 6-figure system program, which is about getting people to 6 figures or multiple 6 figures as quickly as possible. And then I have my high end, my VIPs. So they not only get the group coaching and one-on-one, but they get retreats. They get my designer to design an outfit for them, like a custom made outfit and photos done in that. Just like really, really cool things. So constantly just adding people into 6-figure and then getting them amazing results, and they'll jump up to VIP. And then we're also been looking at like getting some speaking gigs and things like that. So I'm going to speak at Virgin Active, a gym in Singapore, in mid-year. One of my clients works there, and he's been the highest performing PT the last 2 months running, and he's only been there for 3 months. Um, and so I've got running a workshop there for them. I've got a woman that I've been speaking to recently who owns 4 gyms here in Australia, and she wants me to do some mindset, leadership, and business development for her management and her trainers. So wanting to get into more of that kind of stuff as well, because like what I do with my clients is so valuable, and they're getting such fast results and amazing results. I want to be able to spread that out further and be able to help more people. And so that's kind of what I'm working on right now. And then the next steps from there is I'm about to invest in a business as well. One of my clients, I'm going to bring her mum's boot camp business to my area. She's not in my area, and just kind of try and replicate what I first did, but with my now mindset and the strategy that I know, do that even quicker, get to that 200K in like a year, I think would be really cool. Not that it's about speed, but it's like just be a little cool experiment to do. And then a few years down the track, I want to start a charity. So I'm putting feelers out there at the moment. I'm in talks with people, but I'm trying to be patient because I'm not a very patient person. But I know it's like I've got to do this step first to then be able to go to that step and then that step. Otherwise, you just get overwhelmed. And so with the charity, it's about I have this idea that I want to do of helping women who have been in domestic violence situations, helping them build their self-worth, their self-esteem, their confidence, and actually giving them free training to be able to start their own business and learn about personal development as well and money management so that they can either leave or either get back on their feet after that kind of situation that they've been in. So yeah, lots of amazing things coming up, and just trying to focus on one thing at a time and not get ahead of myself.
With all these things going on, and I really think it's interesting to ask this of successful people because I get all kinds of answers, but with all this success now, with all the things that you're doing, who do you see yourself as? If you had to label yourself, who do you see yourself as?
It's interesting. It's funny because actually, as I'm been stepping into this new level of kind of leadership, and a couple of weeks ago, all these stuff was happening. I was getting all these amazing opportunities just popping up. I've had my biggest month ever, and we're only halfway through the month. Like all these amazing things were happening. My brain hadn't caught up to my reality. So some self-worth stuff was coming up. Even though I've done a lot of work on that, every time that we step up and we're growing at a fast rate, it's like we've got to peel another layer of the onion off. And so this self-worth and self-belief stuff would come up like, oh, who am I to have all of this? Or am I really good enough to be talking in front of people and doing things on this level? Or only serious business people do that. I don't have a serious business. I'm just me, And so it took me a couple of weeks. It only took 2 weeks, actually, of realizing that, working on doing some clearing and some work on myself and some personal development. And then after those 2 weeks, I fully stepped into this new level of leadership, this new level of, oh yeah, I'm up here now and that's okay. And my brain kind of caught up and I'm like totally cool with that. So I'm feeling really good now and it's all in ease and flow again. But, it's not just when we're struggling. It's not just when we're starting out that comes up. It comes up every time that you're about to take that next step up. So I guess now I see myself as a leader. I see myself as inspiring and motivating. I'm very driven. I am optimistic a lot of the time as well. And it's funny. I had to write this down for a thing I'm doing at the moment the other day, and then I had to ask other people what they thought of me. I asked my partner, and he's like, "You're optimistic. You're driven. You're like really friendly and social. You're also like chaos and like unorganized." So I'm like, thanks. So we can. I actually, because I've worked on myself so much, I see all these amazing things in myself, but maybe I don't see the the maybe so-called negative traits anymore. In the past, I might have done, but my partner just kind of like brought me back down to earth a little bit there as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's funny because as an entrepreneur, we have to wear so many different hats, and so I think from time to time being able to step back and say, okay, who who am I right now? Who
Yeah.
am I really? What's important to me right now? And kind of stepping back down for a second and getting back to earth, like you said, can kind of be helpful to then help you keep going up. Um,
Yeah. And as I've grown as well, I've realized, my assistant and my admin, they both try and help me to they're very they have the things that I don't have. I am a very spontaneous person. If I have an idea, I'll just go with it. I'll take immediate action, and that's part of why I've been so successful. But they also remind me they're very analytical, and they both love spreadsheets, and they both love systems and all of that, and that's really important in business as well. And so I've learned to be more, whilst I still take fast action on things, which is really important, I've learned to not just be all over the place and be more organized and be more structured and have a good balance between the two of those things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you said that one of the things you've been working on now is getting those two, and really, getting them to help you kind of be your support system in business and help keep you focused and those things. How do you go about identifying the people that you want to bring along with you on your journey? In other words, how did you find them?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually find pretty much everyone who's ever worked with me through Facebook. I literally put up a post on Facebook saying, I'm hiring. This is what I'm looking for. These are some of the things that you'll be doing. Comment below, or tag someone who you think would be suitable. And so when I did that for my most recent admin and social media manager, I had a heap of people tagging their friends or whatever. And then I had one of my clients actually refer someone to me. And um, he sent her my details, and I loved that she took action. She actually called me. Some of these people that had been tagged by their friends, they were commenting on there going, oh, this sounds really good, but not doing anything about it. I had a few send resumes, but this girl, she actually, well, woman, she actually not only sent a resume, but she called me. And she's like, hey, introduced herself, got a good feel for me. She ended up coming in for an interview. At the end of the interview, she asked me, okay, so when will I find out? And I said, look, I like making quick decisions. You're hired. And so, because I'd gone through a whole process with her, I got her to do a personality quiz while she was with me. She'd been referred by a client who I trust. She'd answered all the right questions. She had a great background and skill set. And so I hired her. My other assistant, the one that does the 30 hours a week for me, same kind of process. She was tagged in a post by one of my best friends who's been a friend for 11 years now. So someone who I highly trust. And she had worked with her in the past, and she had all the different skill sets that I wanted. I think it's hard to find someone that had the mold of what I wanted. I didn't want just an admin person. I wanted someone who could do film and photography and branding. She also has a legal background. She worked in a law firm, so she's great with contracts and things like that as well. So, and we've been doing like weekly filming, doing all these amazing things. So she had exactly what I needed, and they both came through Facebook, through putting up a post and having referrals.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I actually think that social media is one of the best places to connect with people. I mean, we actually connected on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
For those listening. So, um,
Mm.
for everybody listening, if you want to talk to somebody, or you want to try to build relationships with people, and they're on Facebook, you really have no excuse anymore. Before just because they're in the yellow pages didn't mean that
Yeah.
you could connect with them. But now we have no excuses. So if there's somebody you want to talk to, just send them a message, and you got to be polite. But
Yeah.
I highly encourage everybody to reach out to those people,
Yeah.
because you never know what might happen.
Mm.
Um, but
Yeah. And
We
don't be scared as well. Like, think there's someone that's further ahead. Like Grant. Do you know Grant Cardone?
absolutely.
Yeah, he's making like 100 million or something. Yeah, he's making some ridiculous amount of money, and he's very well known. I sent him an email a little while ago as a bit of a self challenge. It was something that I was scared of doing. I sent Grant Cardone an email telling him about my story, a bit of my background, and how far I'd come, some of the things I've been speaking about today with you, and then he actually emailed back and said that he was so inspired by the story and had read it out to his whole team. And no one should ever be put up on a pedestal and made to think that you can't connect with them. If they don't reply, they don't reply. You haven't lost anything. But if they do, like, I think that's a really good personal development kind of lesson for yourself in overcoming fear, and just realize there could be amazing opportunities there as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we talked a little bit about your past. We talked about what you're doing now, what you're focusing on. I want to talk about what the future holds for you. And you talked a little bit about wanting to start your own charity, but I'm thinking 20 years down the road, or way down the road. What do you want to be doing? Who do you want to be? What do you want to what impact do you want to have on the world?
Mm. That's a good question, actually. I struggle thinking about the big picture a lot of the time. 20 years feels so long away, and I've achieved so much in the last 6 years. I can't imagine where I will be. And we never really know. But I do want to be speaking on stage in front of thousands or tens of thousands of people. I know I love speaking, and I know that I can really spread my message out and a household name and be really well known, so I can transform many, many people's lives. I'm really passionate about mindset. I'm great with strategy and getting people out of their own way, but I'm really, really good with mindset. So working a lot in that area, building that charity up and helping women at that level, to really give back. That's more a contribution thing rather than a business thing. But yeah, I really want to get in more and make a difference on a much larger scale. I do also, I'm looking at investing in property in the not too distant around the world. I did one in Thailand last year. I've got one in Hawaii in September. Next year I'll be running 3 a year for my VIPs. So at the moment I rent out places like luxury accommodation. I want to start investing in Australia, in properties, but then over time, in the next 10, 20 years, I want to be buying amazing, beautiful places around the world that I can run these retreats from. And when I'm not using the places, I can rent them out to other entrepreneurs as well, that they can use them for events or retreats and things like that. So that's a bigger picture thing as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this has been a great interview so far. I really do appreciate your time. And I just have two more questions for you. I always like to ask these two. The first one is regarding books, because I think that learning from, like you said, mentors and going online and researching, that's really important. But some people are not around anymore, and some of the best ways to get their knowledge and understand their story and where they came from is by reading books that they've written. So for you, what do you think have been
Yeah.
maybe the top three books that you've read in your lifetime?
I think if it's like business, personal development related, Gary Vaynerchuk's first book, Crush It, really, really helped me. I was given that book by my first business coaches like 6 years ago. And when like no, he wasn't who he is today, really. And it was like the stuff that I've been learning from my mentors. He said it all in a book. And I was like, wow, this is a business book that's not talking about outdated principles, talking about current marketing. And he's really speaking my language. And so that was really influential for me early on. I read a lot of Dan Kennedy's books when I was first starting out as well. He's a really, really great marketer. And yeah, I just loved his books early on. But I guess since then, I've been reading books like at the moment, I'm almost just finished a book called The Barefoot Investor, setting yourself up for life, basically, with creating true wealth, sorting out debt and savings and like superannuation. I think you call it like is it a 4K or something, or 401? I don't know what it's called.
Like a 401k?
Something like that for retirement. 401k, yeah, that one. Yeah, yeah. So it's all that kind of stuff, but it's based on the Australian market. So I'm reading that at the moment. A really cool one by Oprah, actually, is called What I Know for Sure. And I think that was a really good personal development mindset, self-awareness kind of book as well. So I'm probably, after we get off this, I'm probably going to think of a million more. But, you know, like, yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk, Dan Kennedy, Tony Robbins, they're all amazing, amazing people, and have great books.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the last question that I have for you today, Ellie, is there anything about yourself that you think is an important part of who you are that I did not ask you about today? In other words, what did I miss?
Hmm. Got me thinking now. You actually ask really good questions, and some of them are there's things, you know, I've been interviewed quite a bit, and sometimes people ask kind of stuff. You'll be talking about similar kind of things, but yeah, you've touched on some things that I haven't really been asked before, which is really cool. I guess I have spoken about it a little bit, but I guess digging a bit deeper, it's just I think it's really to build your self worth, your self esteem, to work on that mindset. You know, the biggest thing that I I've always been super driven. You know, and you've got to be driven if you want to create success, and you've got to always be learning, always be growing. You know, I'll be investing in myself and always learning until the day I die. And not even just so I can create more business success, but so that I can become a better human being, you know? So I think it's really, a lot of people just need to get out of their own way and take that first step. It's not about thinking about that big picture of making 100 grand or making $1 million or whatever. Get overwhelmed if you're thinking about that. It's just thinking, okay, what's the first step? What's the first thing I need to do so that I can get started, and go and do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I highly encourage everybody to connect with Ellie. I'm going to put links to your podcast down below. I'm going to go and afterwards, you know, well,
Yeah.
actually, I'll just ask you, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so they can follow my podcast. So I'll give you the link for that. But feel free to friend me up on Facebook, or like my page on there. My personal page, which is Ellie Burscough, which you'll have that written there, so people don't have to worry about spelling it. So yeah, they can definitely check me out on Facebook. I'm on Facebook all the time. You know, that's where I get most of my clients and connections from. I have a free group on Facebook as well called the Community of Kick-Ass Action Takers. So people will join that for free as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, I'm going to put all those links down below. I highly encourage everybody to reach out to Ellie. She is a fantastic entrepreneur and person, and I have had so much fun talking with you today and doing this interview. I do want to thank you for your time. It has been a real pleasure. So, you know,
Yeah, that's all right. Thanks so much.
absolutely. So, to everybody listening, this has been another Project Egg interview. Today, we've been talking to Ellie Burscough from Australia. Take care now.